If you want to understand how the founders actually viewed religion, you have to start by stripping away 2 centuries of myth-making. The popular image today is that America was built as a Christian nation, founded by deeply pious men who saw the Constitution as a kind of secularized Bible. That picture is not just inaccurate. It is the result of deliberate revisionism that began within a single generation after the Revolution. The truth is that most of the leading figures of the founding era were steeped in Enlightenment rationalism, not evangelical fervor. Their vision of liberty was explicitly designed to keep religion from dictating law or policy. By the time the Revolution began, the intellectual climate among the political class was shaped far more by Locke, Montesquieu, and Voltaire than by the Book of Acts. Jefferson, Franklin, Paine, Adams, Madison, these were not men who grounded their authority in Scripture. Many of them were deists, which meant they believed in a creator but rejected the authority of organized religion, miracles, and divine revelation. They saw morality as rooted in reason and human nature, not in church dogma. Jefferson's own Bible makes the point as clearly as words ever could. He cut out the virgin birth, the resurrection, the miracles, and left only the moral teachings of Jesus. Not as divine commandments, but as sound ethical philosophy. The result was barely 100 pages long, compared to the 1,000+ of a full Bible. Part of the skepticism was a backlash against the very recent memory of Puritan rule and colonial theocracy. For them, that wasn't distant history. The Massachusetts Bay Colony, the Salem witch trials, laws enforcing church attendance, these were within living memory, woven into the culture their parents and grandparents knew. The founders recognized how easily religious authority could be used to justify tyranny. They didn't have to imagine it. They saw how it operated, and they wanted no part of it in the government they were building. That's why, when they wrote the Constitution, the only reference to religion in the main text is negative. Article 6 flatly forbids any religious test for public office. The First Amendment follows the same logic. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Those clauses weren't afterthoughts. They were safeguards ensuring the new government could never declare one faith to be official or punish anyone from dissenting from it. The omission of God in the preamble wasn't an accident. Earlier colonial charters routinely invoked divine authority. The founders chose not to. They were creating a government whose legitimacy came from the people alone. Even John Adams, one of the more conventionally religious among them, signed the 1797 Treaty of Tripoli, which stated in Article 11 that the government of the United States of America is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion. That wasn't controversial at the time. It only became controversial after the Second Great Awakening, when revivalist movements swept across the country in the early 1800s. That wave of evangelical fervor didn't just reshape religion in America, it rewrote the national story. Sermons, textbooks, and eventually history classes began to paint the revolution as a Christian uprising and the founders as devout men chosen by God. This was retroactive piety, not historical fact. The effect of that rewriting was profound. Within a few decades, Jefferson's skepticism, Paine's outright anti-clericalism, Franklin's biting wit about religious hypocrisy, all of it was blurred or erased in public memory. By the mid-19th century, the idea of America as a divinely ordained Christian republic was taken for granted by most of the public, even though it would have baffled or infuriated many of the original leaders. This was no accident. The merging of national identity with Protestant morality served the political needs of the time, rallying citizens under a common religious banner as the nation expanded westward and fought its internal battles over slavery. What makes this even clearer is the sheer volume of writing the founders left behind. These men were not vague about their views. Jefferson openly called the Book of Revelation the ravings of a maniac. Paine wrote The Age of Reason as a full-throated attack on organized religion. Franklin praised virtue and reason above faith, even in his final years. Madison argued fiercely against religious establishment, warning that they corrupted both church and state. These weren't quiet personal beliefs hidden from the public. They were part of the intellectual backbone of the new republic. The founders were not anti-morality. They were not hostile to spirituality as a personal choice. What they rejected was the idea that a free people could remain free if their government derived its legitimacy from religious authority. They understood that law must be grounded in reason and the consent of the governed, or it becomes an instrument of oppression. And they knew from history, their own history, that religion, when merged with power, could be every bit as dangerous as monarchy. The myth of a Christian nation doesn't just distort the past. It distorts the present by giving cover to those who want to use state power to impose their personal faith on others. The founders didn't fight a revolution to swap one form of tyranny for another. They fought to build a framework where no king and no priest could claim authority over your mind, your conscience, or your life. If we want to honor their legacy, the first step is to tell the truth about what they believed and what they warned us about.